right. Thank you, ladies, for starting with me on the kickoff to Sister CEO Circle Empowered Voices. I'm so excited to have you guys today. Today, we are featuring Maribel Jefferies and also Lori Livingston. And we're going to let them talk a little bit about what they do and who they are and just introduce themselves. And I am super excited since this is the kickoff to Sister CEO Circle, and I really wanted to invite some really great women, business owners, just women who are in Christ and who love God and who love business as well. You know, so if we want to kind of get started, let's get started with Lori. Lori, if you can take your mic off, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your journey in Hollywood so far.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, ladies, for having me. Thank you, Denika, for having me today. I really appreciate it. One thing I want to say in terms of Hollywood is, and erase the stigma from your mind that it's just a hobby. Erase the stigma that is just something that we as artists do for fun. It is literally our lives. So that means 24 hours a day, getting paid or not getting paid, we are this thing. We are models, especially the professional. I'm not talking about the Instagram stuff that you see. I'm talking about the real deal people, the actors, you know, that is a 24-hour-a-day thing. And it is a constant journey, as a constant battle of striving to make yourself better. One of the best advice that I heard, and I just keep feeling like the Lord wants me to share this, is opportunity does not care about your excuses. And that's, I think the sooner that most actors or even models or people that are talent figure this out, the faster they would kind of move forward in their lives. We all have this tendency to believe that everything has to be perfect. The timing has to be right. Everything has to be like so. Everything has to be in order. And sometimes when your opportunities come, especially in this field, it's not always going to be picture perfect. I'm a mother of one. My son is a cancer survivor, and he had cancer when I was in the heart of my modeling career, living overseas in Paris, France, modeling for some of the biggest designers in the world. And talk about opportunity coming and basically having to do what I had to do, which was take care of my son. Since then, I've come back to America, and I live in Los Angeles now. And sometimes I surprise myself that I'm still here, because it's definitely not an easy city to live in or an easy profession to be in. But I have made my way up to, by the grace of God, I say it's not me, but by the grace of God, to make my way up into the Marvel universe, which is huge. Your average actor has not been in the Marvel universe. So for God to have opened that kind of door for me has been amazing. Now, all of Hollywood is deemed to be extremely evil, and I would say a lot of it is. But I will say this, as believers, please remember to pray for those Christians, because when you forget the Christians that are here in Hollywood, you leave us on the front lines to fight for ourselves and to fend for ourselves. One of the reasons why Hollywood is so dark today is because Christians have completely written it off as that place is evil. If you let it be that in your mind, then the reality of it will be just that. And those of us who are here, the Denzel Washingtons, me, you know, the people who are believers, who are serious men and women of God here in Los Angeles, we are fighting an even greater battle than we have to, because the believers don't stand up and fight for us. So you cannot write off all of Hollywood. The ones that you see that are evil are basically just going to make a bigger name for themselves. The witchcraft here in Hollywood is insane. It is insane. But again, it goes back to us believers. It goes back to us as men and women of God, not leaving his children that are here. He planted some of us here. Would I have chosen Los Angeles? Absolutely not. Especially as a grown woman and a mother. I would not. This was not my idea of where to go. I had many places in mind, and Los Angeles was not one of them. And to be here now 8 years is only a testament of God, because when I tell you the hell, the high water, the low water, the no water, and anything else that could have come at me has come at me, and I'm still standing somehow. And that's only by God's grace. So if you take anything from what I said, please remember us in Hollywood, because we're fighting a war you guys have no idea about. And if all of the body of Christ keeps writing us off as all of Hollywood is bad and weird, and it is a lot of weird and it is a lot of bad, but not all of us are. And I'll be honest with you, God has used me more on the sets, in these Hollywood sets, literally deliverance, literally ministering to people. A lot of these people lack the love of God. These people don't want to hear scriptures. They don't even understand the scripture. Even if we threw it at them, why they ain't reading the Bible, we are. We understand that. That's like a calculus teacher talking to you calculus. If you never took calculus a day in your life, you don't know what that person's talking about. Same thing with the Bible. But what they do understand is the love of God. What they do understand is respect. What they do understand is you taking the time to care enough to just listen to them and just be there for them as God leads you, because you can get down into some rabbit holes too. So let God guide you in that. But I've seen God work miraculously on these sets here for me and use me to minister to so many people, even top celebrities, even big names. So again, don't write us all off here in Hollywood as evil. We're not. But we're fighting a bigger war because of the church not taking its stand to fight for us too. Thank you for having me, ladies.
Wow, so powerful, Lori. That was really powerful, everything that you said. And my second question, would have been to you, how have you used your faith to influence your decisions there and your approach as far as when you're looking at the roles that you've taken or some of the situations that you've been in? I know you did mention, being able to minister to other actors such as yourself. Can you go a little bit deeper into how maybe your faith influenced some of the decisions that you made?
Thank you for asking that. It literally goes back to literally having that one-on-one with God, having that time to literally sit down and listen. It's not going to be thus saith the church. It's not going to be thus saith Sister Susie. It's going to be thus saith the Lord. What is God saying to you in your heart? Some of these jobs, somebody might look at it and say, oh, don't do that. Don't go there. That's the devil. Don't. But God might be in my heart saying, it's okay. I need you to do that. Why? Because it's not for the job. It's for who he's trying to reach in that setting. It's for who he's trying to get me to. A good prime example is Marvel. When I got the Marvel job, now I already worked the Marvel job before. I had already done something on a lower scale, and Marvel actually called me and said, hey, we want to hire you. I literally told them no. Literally was like, no, because the job, and I was just like, yeah, God's not going to want me doing that. As I went home, literally the Lord got on me, and when God rebukes, it's not harsh, it's still in a loving manner, but he'll let you know. It's a conviction. It's not condemnation. It's a conviction in your heart. And he basically was like, you need to take that job. And I'm like, what? Because I'm sure, thinking as a believer, oh, I did the right thing by telling them no. Ha ha ha. I'm being a woman of God, And God was like, you need to take that job. Now go back and apologize to them and take that job. Humble yourself. Take that job. I'm like, whoa. I had no idea what God was trying to do in my life. So it's really just a lot of sitting down and just listening to the voice of God, not Sister Susie, because the church will step in and start trying to tell you, well, no, what did God tell you? Y'all know how it is. What did God tell you to do? And you follow what he said, and you follow it to a T. And when you get there, I guarantee you, wherever he placed me, in any room, I love what Devon Franklin said. If he puts you in the room, if God puts you in the room, you're supposed to be there. So I have to go into every job with that mindset now. It's not about the job. It's who is in this room that he wants me to be here for. And it may just be showing a person a love of God. It may just be listen. You never know how he's going to use you, but it has to be open to him and how he tells us to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes I find myself trying to figure out, why am I even here in this room? This is not who I thought that I would be. I didn't think that I would be sitting in rooms with CEOs of top companies, some of the biggest companies, being invited to dinner by tech billionaires. I never thought that I would be in those positions. And I had always had when it first started happening, I started to think that I wasn't good enough. And the enemy would speak to me and tell me that, why are you even here? All of these people have more degrees than you. They're smarter than you. They have more money than you. They have all of this. They have this, and you don't belong here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And God wouldn't place me there if I didn't belong there.
Come on now.
Right.
Come on.
The minute that I changed and I elevated my atmosphere, I elevated the circle
Yes.
that I was in,
Yes.
everything started to change for me. Everything started to change for me. And I'm going to go ahead and let me ask Maribel. Tell us a little bit about your story, Maribel, and share a little bit about your journey of combining your business endeavors and your faith together. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. I was looking forward to this all week. And there at the end, I thought today was a long day and I thought, gosh, I'm tired. 7:30. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm very excited to be here and be amongst so many women that share the faith. So I'll start by saying that I was, just to be a little bit transparent, I am a mother of 3. I am married to my high school sweetheart. It will be 31 years or 32 years, excuse me, in May. Thank you. We got pregnant. Well, I got pregnant in high school. So I was one of those statistical high school teenage pregnant moms that found the Lord shortly after my pregnancy. We got married immediately before the baby was born. We got married and traveled with the military. So of course my education got put on hold because whenever we moved to Alaska, I found out that the lady that I had arranged for my newborn to go get childcare from was an actual addict. So I had to stop and take care of the baby and figure out another way to finish my education. So it was a long journey for that, but I've always, since I was a young child, the gift of hair and beauty was in me. I would plait my mother's mops because we didn't have enough money to have Barbie dolls. And then when I got Barbie dolls, that's where I learned how to braid and style, whatever. Anyhow, moving forward, we got married, had 2 other children, so 3 in total. It's not been an easy road, but I stuck out, I stuck it with the whole career of cosmetology. So I did eventually, I found the Lord when I was 17, and he put this wonderful woman that served as my mom while we were in Alaska by ourselves raising a child. And with her blessings of taking care of our daughter, I was able to finish my education. Then the Lord sent another angel and I was able to start working in a salon shortly after being licensed. And I was pretty much under the wings of this one woman. And so here it is, almost 30 years, I've been a licensed cosmetologist, and I have been able to be in the midst of a lot of different professionals in the industry that have deposited into me their craft and their gifts and what they have learned throughout the years. And so about in 2015, I decided that I wanted to give back. But I didn't just want to give back. I wanted to give back to my people. So I'm originally from Puerto Rico. So the Hispanic community at that time here in North Carolina was being allowed to start taking classes in the community colleges without needing a social. So I pretty much have dove into that teaching arena while I'm still a business owner of my salon, working part-time. And so I pretty much have grown the cosmetology bilingual and the natural hair department at Wake Tech for the continuing education side. And I'll never forget when I started to go back to school to just earn the teacher's degree. I went to Wake Tech and I told the lady, this is funny because I don't know if she remembers this, but I'm a Bible believer. So I speak the word and I say, I'm going to speak it into existence. So I went to the college and I told that lady in 2005, I said, I want your job. And she looked at me like, what? I said, yes, I want your job. That was way back before I even knew that the Lord was going to put me in that position. So, here it is, I don't know, 10 or so years later, she's my counterpart. So we have the same job. I'm just in a different division. And I would always ask myself, my parents moved to the United States when I was 7. So English is my second language. And I would always ask the Lord, why did we come here? Why couldn't we have stayed in Puerto Rico? Because that way I could, because, I am bilingual, I'm fully bilingual, but I wanted to grow my family in Puerto Rico kind of thing. And so my children, the 3, they're not all bilingual, just my oldest. And that's a whole nother story in itself. But I remember thinking, why did you do that for me? Like, why am I bilingual? What's my purpose? And then now I know, I'm able to be that bridge for these students that don't have the English language. And so we partner up with other partners to try to help them realize, okay, you're here, you speak Spanish, but you must learn English. Here, come and let's help you get to that, next level, because you're going to cut yourself off from the potential that you could have financially if you're only servicing, the Hispanic population. So as far as my faith, I am a radical believer. So, I tend to kind of pray about parking spaces. I pray about the weather. My daughter just got married December 31st, and there was, talk about rain. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm a child of the King. And so, I started just praying about it, and I kept telling her, I've already put the order in, so don't worry about it. They plan a year and so in advance. So she kept saying, oh, what if it rains and it's outdoors, whatever. So anyway, I am a faith Bible believing, and I love the word of God. And, back when I was 17, that I committed myself to memorizing a lot of God's word so that I could pray his word, because when you pray his word, you are putting him to the test, and he's not a man that he should lie, right? So his word is not going to return out to him void. And so a lot of the things that I have instilled in my children, now that they're older, I have a 31, a 28, and a 27-year-old, and they're like, Mom, that's Bible? Yes, that's Bible. Little did they know that they were speaking Bible, but their mama was depositing that in them. And like Lori mentioned before, some people don't even know anything about the Bible. So I just made it as a figure of speech. And so being in the education world, we can't talk about God, right? And so a lot of times when I come into these classes, the Lord speaks to me about certain people, and I'm like, okay, I see you. They don't know that I see them, but it's not me seeing them. It's God showing me who's going to need what from us, because we're not just teaching them about hair, but we're teaching about life, and hopefully the little bit of faith that, I can impart in them, even if it's just that mustard seed, I can see the fruits of the labor once they leave us a year and a half later, type of thing. So I can say to what Lori was saying, as far as praying for even the Hollywood. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't typically even think about that arena. I tend to not a big TV watcher type person. But now that you mentioned that, I will put that on my prayer list, because it is important, because we are scattered throughout, and we are fighting against principalities in high places. And it's, when the calling is a high calling, your temptation is going to be that much harder to overcome. Not that you can overcome it, because there's no temptation, right, that we can't overcome. There's always a way of escape that the Lord provides for us, but we just have to stay focused in what our goals are. And like Denika said, you have to know that you are a child of the King, and if he said that we can have it, even though if our degrees don't back it up, we're gonna have it, because he said that he will equip us for what it is that we need So I'm just excited to be here. Hopefully this is a platform that can continue on so that we can grow as sisters in Christ, showing, just sharing our experiences, the testimony of our faith, picking each other up, learning from each other, because even though Latoya, I've been a business owner and have had 3 salons, but I'm still learning. There are things that I can still do better. So hopefully I can find that in this group.
Well, we will be here every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern
Okay.
Standard Time. Okay,
Okay.
so if you're available, pop in and we'll have these discussions every week.
I love it.
One more question for you, Maribel. As a woman of color in business, what unique challenges have you faced and how have you overcome those challenges? I want to hear that from you because I know being Hispanic here, tell me about some of those challenges.
Okay, well, that's a good question. And this is a safe space, so I will share.
Yes.
So I live in the small town of Garner, where it's a very closed-minded type town. I've been here for over 20 years, about 28 or well, I got here in 1998, so whatever that is, 20 something. And so I feel like I was accepted until I spoke. So once my accent came out, then it was like, wait a minute, where are you from? Kind of thing. So I've dealt with a lot of that. And then of course my children, are biracial. So they look like me and my husband. They have this beautiful curly hair. And so, green eyes like I have, which was kind of odd for a Hispanic person too, so we've had to deal with a lot of those challenges while they were coming up. And thankfully, the Lord kept us through this entire time where we knew enough to be quiet and just kind of go through, because we had a bigger plan for our children to, they were all athletes. They were all collegiate Division I athletes that got scholarships, played their sport, and have graduated college. And so now that we have reached that goal and they're successful, now we can speak out. So we just had, I had one incident in the salon where I was asked if what was I? Was I mulatto? Was I colored? What was I? And I thought, well, I don't know. How do you eat that? Like, is that gelato? Like, I just made fun of it. But I thought, really? Wow. That just is kind of insulting. But I have experienced a lot of that in this area, which was another reason why I decided to go into teaching and teach the Hispanic population and the minorities, because I thought, you know what, I've done this long enough. I can do something else. The Lord, this is not it for me. So it was a little bit challenging and at times hurtful. And just about 4 months ago, we were at church, predominantly white church. I mean, I might be one of maybe 3 Hispanics and my husband one of maybe, I don't know, 5 African Americans and one of the ladies in our Sunday school class. And now we've been going there for a long time. She was saying a story and she says, she was speaking about her grandson playing a basketball game and how he had just hurt his hand, and this is her words, and this chocolate boy just came and smacked his hand. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I'm sitting there and I thought, I'm Latina, right? So I have a very spicy kind of like I'm very quick, but I'm saved. So I had to just say, okay, God, you have to guard my mouth, right? Like you can like be angry, but sin not. And so I had to kind of think about that. And of course, my husband's like, what is that supposed to mean, kind of thing. So we talked about it. I prayed about it. I spoke to my oldest child about it, who's 32. And then I said, you know what? We're going to report this. We're going to deal with this in a way that is a Christian-like way and not retaliation. Like my flesh really wanted to, my flesh really wanted to put that lady in her place, because you're not just talking about chocolate boy. You're talking about all the colored people, all the people of color, or all the minorities, and what, you know, it just was terrible. But we had breakfast with the couple, and we told them, and you know, I did get a little angry, and my voice kind of rise, and you know, but at the end of our conversation, you know, it's an issue of the heart. And I think that we are to educate people, but also we can't be doormats either, right? So, because Jesus didn't, you know, allow the people to come in and you know, sell their stuff in the church. He turned up the tables, right?
Yes, he
was
did.
angry. So, you know, I'm not saying that we're gonna allow people to say and do whatever it is. We can educate them in love, but we also can stand firm in, you know, God's truth. So the race thing has been an issue for us here in the South. I'm from, you know, I grew up in Connecticut, so I didn't experience that. I was amongst all minorities. So when we came here, it was a little bit of a culture shock.
And I'm going to have Attorney Yada speak next. Attorney Yada, tell us a little bit about you and what you do there in DC.
Hi, well, thanks, Denika, for having this. You guys, my name is Yaida Ford, like she said, and I'm an attorney in DC. Christian and lawyer don't go in the same sentence to most people. So I'll start off by saying that. And then Black woman and lawyer also don't go in the same sentence, depending on which jurisdiction you live in, and me walking into several different courthouses in several different cities, and then thinking I'm like a defendant or the mother of a defendant or something. So on many levels, you know, I've experienced all manner of things, but I own my own practice. So that's why I came to tonight's Sister Circle. And that also is something that's rare for me. In DC, there are a lot of African-American attorneys, but they don't do trial work. So I'm a civil rights trial lawyer. So I don't see me on the other side of me. All of my opponents are white males representing corporations that I'm usually generally suing for some type of employment discrimination. Or I also sue the police. So I sue the government a lot, and the government police officers are usually represented by prosecutors, and in our city, prosecutors by and large are mostly white, even though DC tends to, professionally, we have a large number of African Americans in different fields. So that's my professional life in a nutshell. But hi, happy to be here.
I just thought that, you know, your story exactly and what you do is so fitting to come against what Maribel was just talking about. Yaida,
Yeah.
I'm always saying your name wrong. I'm so sorry about that. So I wanted to even ask Dawn. Hi, Dawn, how are you? Dawn and I graduated Leadership North Carolina together, and I wanted to talk a little bit with Dawn about how she balances the demands of what she does with her spiritual life, because I know what Dawn does.
Hi, everybody. Wow. Yeah. What I do. So I'm a nurse. I'm working for an insurance company right now. I was working in a clinic, but I left. I am an ordained minister, and I am the first female president of the Northampton County NAACP. And I own my own business. I teach CPR and basic first aid. I just try to, you know, when I look at everything, it's like a ministry. Like, so I'm a preacher, but my ministry is not really in the pulpit. I mean, I preach when they ask me to, but I'm in no rush to run to the pulpit. I much rather minister to people in the community. When I was working in the clinic, now that I am basically now working in my home office, I don't have to go into a clinic every day anymore. I spend a lot of time on the phone with people. I minister to them there. I minister at the NAACP. I remind them that there's a reason that NAACPs almost always meet in churches, because the missions are so closely intertwined. And I'm trying to get them to go out and disciple more people so that we can grow our branch. But the reason I balance is it's all connected, whether it's church ministry, nursing ministry, social justice ministry. It's all ministry. That's how it is. God balances it for me, because it's like sometimes I feel like I have all these plates that I'm trying to stop from hitting the ground, but I just have to take my hands off of them and let him deal with it.
Question, can you share with us an example of when your faith guided you through a difficult decision? I know that you just left your last job. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I worked there for 9.5 years, and it seemed like they were testing me at every turn. And they hired me to be a manager, fresh out of nursing school, pretty much. And then at some point, I don't know, I fell from favor with the powers that be, and they demoted me. And they stuck me in a corner and said, here, do this. And at first I was like, okay, God, why? And then I started to really enjoy that job because I was dealing more with patients. When I was the manager, I was managing the clinical people. Then I had to do Medicare wellness visits, and I got really attached to the patients. But meanwhile, it also gave me a lot of time. Like during COVID, we weren't letting patients into the clinic. And so I was able to be on Zoom meetings like this during the day, or just take off and go to conferences. And like Leadership North Carolina, I just took vacation time and went. But then the last straw was, there was a program that the local hospital was going to write a grant for, from HRSA, which regulates the clinics and a lot of the hospitals. And in that grant, there was going to be hospital involvement, the clinic where I worked, and the 2 local departments of health. And the part for my clinic, when the woman wrote the grant, she wrote it with me in mind. I helped them write that position. And when it got to the chief operating officer of the clinic where I worked, she was like, oh, well, maybe somebody else can do that. She found one little tiny piece in the wording of that grant proposal and said, oh yeah, Ryan over there, he does that. He should be the project director. Also, along with this grant was working with churches and having like church play dates and having different events in the churches. And so they're like, yeah, well, you're clergy and you know all these churches and you're a nurse and you've got the clinical piece. You're the one. But they kept saying, no, we'll give it to Ryan. And right then and there, God said, there's your sign. And so I started cleaning up my office, and I started working on my home office. Didn't have a job, hadn't applied for one yet. But I said, my next move is going to be working from home, talking to patients over the phone, and maybe sometimes going to see them in their homes. People were like, well, how do you know that? I said, because, you know, I went through what I went through, and every time I was like, well, I really like what I'm doing. I really love these people. And God was just nudging me. And then finally he was like, look, here, they don't care about you. Get out of there. And so when the Spirit says move, you got to move. So here I am.
So this is interesting. The whole time you were there, you were doing all of the work. They wrote the grant with you in mind, and then they gave it to someone else. That took a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? My flesh would have been ate up.
Self-control.
Yes.
Yeah, God control, because self-control,
Yes,
you can't.
maturity. Yes, she said maturity.
Maturity.
Lori
Yeah.
said maturity.
And, you know, that's part of it. They figured, you know, she's been here 9.5 years. She's not going to just get up and leave. She's going to keep taking whatever we dish out. She's almost 60 years old. people 60 years old don't find new jobs. They stay, you know, because that's what our generation, you know, get a job, stay there forever, get the pension and retire. And I'm like, nope, I'm not your almost 60-year-old. I'm out of here.
I'm gonna thank you for sharing, Dawn. You're better than me. Okay, I'm just letting you know that right now. Yes, you look great. You do look fabulous for being you're 60?
Not yet. I just turned 58.
Almost.
I would say
Okay.
almost 60.
Trust me, guys, this woman, she's always got them on her. Okay. She looks good. Okay. So she looks really good.
Thank you.
Yes.